In the heart of Florence, Italy, a city known for its Renaissance art, cobblestone streets, and exquisite cuisine, there lived a woman whose story would soon shake not just the food world, but also the hearts of everyone who believed that passion, resilience, and authenticity are the secret ingredients of success. Her name was Maria Isabel de la Cruz, a Filipina chef who had traveled far from her hometown in Batangas to chase a dream. She was no stranger to hardship. Growing up, she helped her mother cook adobo, sinigang, and kare-kare for neighbors who loved her family's small carinderia. Her mother used to say, "Anak, good food is not about the price of the ingredients. It's about the love you put into it." Those words became Maria's philosophy, one she carried across oceans. When she first set foot in Italy, she felt small. The language was foreign, the culture intimidating, and the kitchen she dreamed of working in seemed impossible to enter. But Maria's heart was set. She didn't just want to survive, she wanted to prove that Filipino cooking, with all its bold flavors and heartwarming comfort, could stand side by side with the best cuisines in the world. For years, she worked as a dishwasher in a prestigious Italian restaurant. She scrubbed pans until her hands were raw. She mopped floors long after midnight. But when the chefs weren't looking, she studied, watching how sauces were reduced, how meats were seared, how pasta was shaped with delicate fingers. She listened carefully, absorbing every detail. And then, one night, opportunity came. The head chef was sick. The sous chef panicked. Customers were waiting, orders were piling up, and the kitchen was chaos. Maria, trembling but determined, stepped forward and asked, "Posso aiutare? May I help?" They laughed at her at first. What could a dishwasher know about fine Italian cuisine? But desperation left them no choice. Maria cooked. She made a risotto so creamy it melted in the mouth, a seafood pasta so fragrant that even the waiters stopped to inhale its aroma. When the plates went out, the dining hall fell silent, and then erupted in praise. Customers clapped, asked for the chef, and said it was the best meal they had eaten in months. From that night on, Maria was no longer invisible. She rose quickly from dishwasher to line cook, from line cook to sous chef, until she became one of the quiet forces behind the restaurant's growing reputation. People came back again and again, not realizing it was her hands crafting the flavors they loved. The Italian head chef received the credit, but Maria didn't mind. She was doing what she loved, and she believed that recognition would come in its own time. But life is not always fair. One morning, Maria was called into the office. The owner of the restaurant, a proud Italian businessman, sat behind his polished desk. He smiled thinly as he spoke. "Maria," he said, "we are grateful for your service, but we are moving in a new direction. We have hired an internationally acclaimed chef from France. You understand, we must raise our standards." Maria's heart dropped, fired. Just like that. She tried to plead, to explain that customers loved the food, but the owner waved her away. To him, she was still just a Filipina cook, replaceable and unworthy of prestige. Her years of dedication, her passion, it all meant nothing against the shine of a foreign name. That evening, she walked the streets of Florence, tears stinging her eyes. The bells of the Duomo rang in the distance, mocking her despair. "Maybe Mama was wrong," she whispered. "Maybe love is not enough." But destiny was already at work. Days passed, and the restaurant that had fired her unveiled its new French chef with much fanfare. Customers lined up, curious to taste his creations. The first plates came out, beautifully presented, precise, perfect on the surface. Yet something was missing. "It looks good," one diner whispered, "but where is the soul?" Another complained, "This food has no warmth, no heart." Slowly, customers began to drift away. The laughter and chatter that once filled the dining hall grew quiet. Reservations were canceled, reviews soured. The restaurant that once glowed with pride began to dim. Meanwhile, Maria stayed in her tiny rented room, cooking for herself. She made sinigang na baboy to soothe her sadness, the tamarind broth reminding her of home. She prepared adobo and thought of her mother's smile. She baked ube ensaymada and shared it with her Filipino neighbors, who encouraged her. "Maria, your food is too good to stay hidden. Don't give up." One evening, as she served a simple meal to a small Filipino gathering in Florence, something magical happened. An Italian guest, a friend of a friend, tasted her kare. His eyes widened. "Dio mio, this is incredible," he exclaimed. "Why is this not served in restaurants?" Maria laughed bitterly. "Because they don't believe in Filipino food here." But that guest, a food blogger with thousands of followers, took a picture, posted it online, and wrote, "The best food I've had in Florence this month didn't come from a Michelin-starred restaurant. It came from a Filipina chef named Maria." The post went viral. People began asking, "Who is Maria? Where can we taste her food?" Maria's phone buzzed with messages, her inbox flooded with requests. She didn't know it yet, but the tide of her destiny was turning. The same restaurant that had fired her was struggling. Their acclaimed French chef couldn't connect with the locals. Customers whispered rumors that the reason they once loved the restaurant was because of a secret chef who had disappeared. The owner began to panic. He wondered, had it been Maria all along? But by the time he realized the truth, Maria had already taken the first steps toward her new journey. She had decided to open her own restaurant, a small, humble space where she would cook the food of her heart, the food of her people, the food that once comforted her as a child in Batangas. She called it Corazon Filipina, the heart of the Philippines. The opening night was modest, only a few tables, a few dishes. But as the first plates of sinigang, adobo, lumpia, and halo were served, something extraordinary happened. Customers smiled, laughed, and even cried. Italians who had never tasted Filipino food before felt the warmth in every bite. "This food," they said, "is love on a plate." And just like that, word spread. Florence had fallen in love with a new kind of cuisine, one born of struggle, resilience, and the spirit of a Filipina chef who refused to give up. Maria's journey was only beginning. The restaurant that once fired her would soon regret their mistake, because what they threw away became the seed of something far greater, a culinary revolution that would bring Filipino food to the heart of Italy. Corazon Filipina had begun as a whisper, a small restaurant tucked into a quiet street in Florence, its sign handwritten, its tables few, its decor simple. But inside, it held something powerful, the soul of a Filipina who had refused to be silenced. On opening week, Maria cooked every dish herself. She rose before dawn to go to the market, carefully choosing fresh fish for sinigang, the ripest tomatoes for adobo, the best bananas for turon. She carried her mother's spirit in every step, repeating her mantra, "Food is love." Her first customers were fellow Filipinos who wept with nostalgia as they tasted dishes that reminded them of home. "It's like being back in Manila," one said, wiping away tears after tasting her pancit palabok. Another exclaimed, "Maria, this is more than food, it's memory." But then came the Italians. At first, they were hesitant. What was Filipino food? They had heard of Chinese, Japanese, maybe Thai. But Filipino? It was unfamiliar. Some came out of curiosity, others because of the viral blog post. And then, magic happened. A young Italian couple tried her chicken adobo. They chewed slowly, their eyes widening as the flavors unfolded. Soy, vinegar, garlic, peppercorn, a balance of sour and savory unlike anything they had tasted before. "Incredible," they whispered. This is better than French cuisine." An elderly woman, skeptical at first, tried her sinigang. The sour tamarind broth surprised her, but as the warmth spread through her chest, she smiled. "It tastes," she said softly, "like comfort." Soon, word spread. Within weeks, Corazon Filipina was filled every night. Tables booked weeks in advance. Food critics began to arrive, their pens ready to dismiss her, but they left astonished. "Maria Isabel de la Cruz is not just cooking," one reviewer wrote. "She is telling a story on every plate." The restaurant that once fired her, meanwhile, was in decline. The French chef they had hired crafted dishes that looked beautiful, but the customers knew something was missing. They whispered to each other, "It doesn't taste like Maria's food." Reviews soured. Tables sat empty. The owner grew desperate. One night, as Maria closed her restaurant, a familiar figure appeared at her door. It was him, the owner who had once told her she wasn't good enough. "Maria," he began awkwardly, "perhaps we made a mistake. Please come back. We need you." Maria looked at him with calm eyes. The memory of her humiliation flashed in her mind, the way he had dismissed her without a second thought. But now, here he was, begging. "Sir," she said gently, "you did not just fire me. You fired the heart of your restaurant. And now, that heart beats here." She gestured to Corazon, Filipina, filled with laughter and warmth. "I cannot go back. I have found my place." The man left in silence. But Maria's journey was not just about proving herself. It was about sharing her heritage. She introduced Italians to dishes they had never known. Laying made with taro leaves and coconut milk, sisig sizzling on hot plates, lechon kawali so crispy it echoed in every bite. She explained the history behind them, how Spanish, Chinese, and indigenous influences had shaped Filipino food into a tapestry of flavors. Customers didn't just eat, they learned, they connected. Soon, Maria was invited to food festivals. She stood on stage next to Michelin-starred chefs, her apron plain, her smile humble. At first, some chefs scoffed. Filipino food? Too simple, too rustic. But then they tasted her kare-kare, rich with peanut sauce, served with bagung that danced on the tongue. Silence fell, followed by applause. "Your food," one Italian chef admitted, "is unforgettable." Italians began to line up for Filipino food. Food magazines featured her story. The Filipina who conquered Florence through flavor. International media followed. She was invited to Rome, Milan, Paris. Everywhere she went, people fell in love with her cooking. And back in the Philippines, news traveled fast. Filipinos beamed with pride, saying, "That is our food, that is our culture, that is our Maria." But success didn't make Maria arrogant. She remained the same humble woman who once washed dishes. She hired fellow Filipinos, giving jobs to overseas workers who had struggled like her. She trained them patiently, telling them, "Never forget, food is love, and love must be shared." Corazon Filipina expanded, opening branches in Rome and Milan. Each one carried the same warmth, the same spirit of home. Customers from all over the world came, not just Filipinos seeking comfort, but Italians, Americans, Japanese, Arabs, all drawn by the soul in her food. The restaurant that had once fired her eventually closed. The grand French chef returned to his country, his reputation bruised. The owner lost everything. People said it was karma. But Maria, ever gracious, never mocked him. Instead, when asked, she said, "I am grateful. If they had not let me go, I would never have found the courage to create my own path." Years later, Maria stood in front of a crowd at a global culinary summit in Paris. She was now recognized as one of the most influential chefs in the world, but when asked about her journey, she did not talk about fame or money or awards. She spoke of her mother's carinderia in Batangas. She spoke of the nights she scrubbed dishes until her hands bled. She spoke of the humiliation of being told she wasn't good enough, and the joy of proving, not through anger, but through love, that she was more than enough. "Food," she said, her voice trembling with emotion, "is memory. Food is culture. Food is love. And love, once shared, cannot be forgotten." The audience rose to their feet in thunderous applause. Back in Florence, Corazon Filipina remained a beacon. Tourists and locals alike crowded its tables, but Maria always made time to greet them, to smile, to share a story. Sometimes she would sit with a homesick Filipino worker and serve them a bowl of sinigang, saying, "Here, this will remind you of home." Other times, she would explain to Italians why adobo was cooked with vinegar, to preserve it in tropical heat, and they would marvel at the ingenuity of Filipino tradition. Her food became more than a business. It became a bridge between the Philippines and the world, a bridge between past pain and present pride. Maria Isabel de la Cruz, the dishwasher who was once invisible, had become a legend. Not because she chased fame, but because she cooked with her heart. And in every bite of her food, customers tasted not just the Philippines, but the story of resilience, hope, and love that defines every Filipino.